have enough seats. I'm not confident yet because it's not 6 o'clock, but almost. Right. Oh my goodness. Hi, Binyam. All right. Yes. She's wonderful. Oh, she's great. Oh, well, she has. She has. I've been thinking about her during this news cycle. You know, it's impossible. Her dad. Right. Amazing. Yes. Yeah. It's a name to keep. Right. When there are bridges with that name, you hold on to it, right? I know. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize they weren't close. Yeah. You know, I shouldn't judge somebody without knowing them, but I can see it. I can see it. Um, anyway, she's she's so smart. She's so smart, and she's just yeah. Right. I'm glad to hear that. Well, good. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, thank you. That's very sweet. I appreciate it. Well, give her a hug for me. A COVID distance hug. Well, yeah. Thank you. All right. All right. We have enough seats. You all are here. This is terrific. I kind of want to sit. I don't want this to be a formal thing. And when I stand, I start to preach. So you don't want that. Yeah. Right. Right. So I want to share. Um, we are live streaming now because our service starts at 6:30, but we don't have we don't have any stopgap streaming wise for people who expect a 6 o'clock stream. So for those of you who are joining us on live stream, welcome to our Torah study. This is Macomb Street Shabbat. So the first Friday of the month. It's a fantastic scene here at Washington Hebrew. We start in normal times with Torah study, with drinks, with hors d'oeuvres, from 6 to 6:30, and then we start our a really lively and musical Shabbat evening service. Tonight is Macomb Street Shabbat, and so we're going to start with Torah study. So you may have been expecting a Shabbat service. It's coming. Just stick around until 6:30. It's going to be terrific. Anyway, my name is Aaron Miller. I'm one of the rabbis here at Washington Hebrew Congregation, and we have a fantastic Torah portion. One of the last Torah portions in the entire Torah. We have, you're going to hear me talk about this later on during the sermon. We have Moses in his final hour of life. 180 years minus an hour. This is where we find ourselves in this week's Torah portion. Now, 120. Oh my gosh. Abraham was 180, I believe. Anyway, 120. Thank you. He felt 180. He didn't look a day past 112, though. So I want to share with you, as we're about to begin our Torah study. I hope everybody got a Torah study page. If you didn't, they're right at that entrance. Two big risks that we took tonight, that I took tonight. First is one verse of Torah. Normally, one verse of Torah is enough to get us through a couple of weeks if you do early Torah with me, but there's no backup verses. All right, so this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to dive deep into this one verse, and then the other, obviously, risk is the more people there are, often the more lively the discussion. So you need to make yourselves count. This is a conversation, not a lecture. This is a discussion, not a sermon, all right? So I've got lots of questions for you. I hope you have lots of questions for me and each other, and I'm excited to get started. First of all, let's join together in the bracha and the blessing for the study of Torah. If you are not overly familiar with these words, if you know the candle lighting blessing, it sounds a little bit like the candle lighting blessing with the final words, La'asok b'divrei Torah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us mitzvot, commandments, including the mitzvah for the study of Torah. And that is what we do right now. So let's just go around. It's a small crowd. It's a small crowd. We've got Labor Day weekend leading up to Rosh Hashanah. This is as early as the high holidays will be in my lifetime. And so it's an unusual weekend. So I just like to go around. If everybody could just share their name and where they came from to get here this evening. Name and where you came from to get here this evening. Dan, how about you, if you could start? Terrific, please. And where, yeah. Home, a walk, gardens here. Thank you, Joellen. I'm glad you're here. Please. Tressa Bork in Arlington. That's great. Terrific. Please. Dining room table, working from home. Please. Oh, my gosh. Terrific. Hillwood. Inside, outside beauty, of course, it's such a gorgeous place. And then here, please. Wonderful. So from nearby, not so far away, please. Oh, wonderful, Michelle, for the bar mitzvah. Wonderful. I'm glad you're here. Well, you came for the good part. The whole night's a good part. This is a wonderful conference. This is a wonderful evening that Washington Hebrews put together. So we're going to start. Now, we're not going to read the whole verse at a time, right? It's going to be a slow reveal here. It's going to be a big surprise. If I could ask someone to start reading, Dan knows the deal. Dan, maybe can I ask you to be our reader for just a little bit? This is Deuteronomy 29:28. Hang on a minute. All right, so concealed acts. Concealed acts is how we begin our discussion tonight. What is a concealed act? Oh, interesting. So something that not many people see, right? A concealed act. What are some other concealed acts? Eve commits a crime or does something. I don't want to put any labels on it in this conversation. That no one else sees, but God sees it, right? Concealed act. You tell me, what's the negative connotations? Ah, interesting. Right. So there are things that we do privately. They are not all bad. It depends on how you look at human nature, right? We haven't even read concern. Oh, yeah. And actually, it's not even concern. It's just the letter lamed, which is for. So if I were to translate this literally, it would be secret things are God's, right? Are for God. Secret things are for God, right? Concealed acts are for God. Things that people do not know about are God's or of God's concern. But we haven't gotten to concern yet. What are some other concealed acts? Interesting. That there's something to be concerned about. Right. Now, it is this word, hanis tarot, is often used in a thing that you'd want to keep hidden context, right? But I love this conversation, right? That in private, we are not all bad people. Right? In fact, we do some of our noblest acts where no one is seeing. When you think about tzedakah, right? Tzedakah in its highest form is done without witness, right? When you perform various mitzvot, right? They don't need to be hidden from the world, but often they are. Hidden acts, concealed acts. Tell me what else are concealed acts. We haven't even gotten into a category of concealed things. Concealed acts is also a mistranslation. Remember, it's secret things. Secret things. Hidden things are for God. Hidden things. Like what? Please, Lynn. So things that you've covered up. Sure. Actions that you've covered up, absolutely. Absolutely. What else could this be? There's so many, there's not one answer here, which is important, right? And ultimately, we're going to talk about the high holidays. So rest assured, this is landing somewhere nearby. Concealed acts. Things between you and God, right? Like what? Who here knows what I'm thinking right now? Nobody. I hardly know what I'm thinking right now, right? And as we move through the year, as we move through our lives, right, there is an internal chatterbox, right? Oh, is this just me, right? We have this stream of consciousness that is speaking. That's speaking to us. That's narrating the world as we perceive and understand it, right? No one listens in on that, on your deepest thought processes, except for God, right? That's what our tradition teaches, that there are things that we have felt, things that we have thought, things that we have believed. I share 0.00001% of them with you all, right? The other vast percentage is me, right? My understanding, and God is listening in on that internal conversation we have with ourselves, right? Concealed things are not just things that we do, they are things that we think. They're things that we think. And who's the language is bad here with the sentence I'm about to ask. Who's the only other one who knows what we think? God. What does that mean about you and me and our ability to understand and know what someone else is thinking? It's impossible, right? So let's turn this on its head. Who can know what someone else is thinking? No one. No one. Now, I'll share with you, my mother's a marital therapist. It is a very helpful career to have in the family, right? It's more helpful than having a doctor in the family, although I have doctors in the family too. Because I turn to her for all kinds of things. And one of the things that one of the many nuggets of wisdom that I've heard from her is, no matter how long you know somebody, you will never be able to do what? You'll never be able to read their minds. You'll never be able to read their minds. Has that stopped any of us from assuming that we know what other people are thinking, right? Right? You can't do it. You can't do it. How much of what someone else is thinking can you actually know? Right. Ultimately nothing, right? And so, turn this into a real world application for if God is the only one who can know without us telling God what we in our own minds are thinking, what do we need to do in order to actually understand what someone else is thinking? Put yourself in that place? Sure. But then you're kind of putting your own, so the answer is put yourself in that place, put yourself in their shoes. Maybe you can empathize. Maybe through empathy, we can start to understand. One of the challenges with empathy, though, what's the challenge with empathy? What's the challenge of putting your feet, which are very much yours, in someone else's shoes? Right. You can't fully do it unless you've experienced what they've experienced. I'm repeating for the people who are live streaming. Right. 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 You don't know how anybody feels unless you walk in their shoes. But when the feet are different, right? The shoes feel different. And what I mean, we're killing this analogy here, and I'm sorry about that. But someone's life experience will dictate what they are thinking about what they're encountering right now, right? And your life experience might make what is happening in someone's life, if you were in their shoes, and we could very well we've often been here, right? What are they so stressed about, right? Why is this thing that's bothering them of such deep concern? If I were in their shoes, water off the back. If I were in their shoes, I'd be running right now. If I were in their shoes, I would do this, that, or the other thing, because you are different, right? And empathy only goes so far, right? Empathy is a beautiful thing, yeah. Right. Right. And everyone has a different vantage point of the same thing. Perception is one's reality. And this is not what we're here to talk about. This is not what we're here to talk about right now, but I'll just continue this conversation because I listen to rabbis and podcasts all the time, and I was listening to one just yesterday, actually, who talks about the Israelites' relationship, physical proximity to the Holy of Holies, to the tabernacle, right? To this ancient tent, this first Washington Hebrew congregation, right? The ancient tent thousands of years ago, that was our first place where we prayed. And instead of having the Ark of the Covenant, the tabernacle, at the front, and then have the Levites who being the most important, and then maybe birth order going all the way down to Benjamin, right, which was the youngest tribe, or some other configuration of who's closer, who's further. The tabernacle's in the middle. Everybody's around it, and we march through the wilderness with the tabernacle in the middle. Everybody has their own view of the tabernacle, right? If I'm walking here, sorry for the camera angle. If I'm walking here, I can see this version of Dan Kaplan, right? But this is the only version of Dan Kaplan I can see. If I want to get the full version of Dan, I got to ask somebody who's sitting in these crossed out seats, right? If I want to see what's behind Dan's head, I got to ask Joe Allen, right? You can only see what you can see from your own eyes. Everything else, you have to ask. You have to ask someone who sees it differently. And you will never know what's going on in between someone's ears unless you are asking. Now, I've never done this before, but I hear people have when you make assumptions about what's going on in someone's head, especially as they feel about you. I've never done this before. Kidding. We do this all the time, right? He feels like this about me. I just know it. She feels this way about me. For better or for worse. Usually we are surprised by those assumptions. Am I right? Am I right? If you want to know what someone is thinking, ask. Ask. Because the only other who knows is God. Yeah, please. Right. Walking in moccasins. But again, the moccasin might feel a little differently depending on how big or small your foot is, right? I mean, their moccasin only fits them because they have their own life experience. Sure. Yeah, please, Arlene. Can I ask you to... Even what they say is not as important as what they do. And I want us to hold on to that thought because we're going to get to the two most important words in this week's verse that we're studying. It's so important that there are dots over the letters. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you see the dots? You see the dots? So we're going to get to those words in a minute. It's in Hebrew, but we'll translate it in just a little while. If you want to know what someone is thinking, you ask. And until you ask, you are wrong. Yeah, Dan. Right. 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 So long as it's here, you can do something about it. Right. 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 right, 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 right. And before it becomes over. Right. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to your thoughts. I've used this, I believe only one time in a sermon. I'm going to use it again, though, now, and I reserve the right to use it in other sermons because I love how this works. Any skiers here? Skiers, snowboarders, cyclists. Any cyclists here? Yeah? So, we have a cyclist here. Remind me your name? Michelle. So, if I am biking over here, but I'm looking at Michelle, where does the bike almost automatically go? To where you're looking, right? I'm so sorry for the camera angle. This must be really frustrating for Allison. If you're skiing, you go in the direction you're going. Snowboarding, you go in the direction you're going. I know from experience because this whole arm has been replaced. There's a lot of metal here. Because when you're looking at the rock, you hit the rock, right? When you're looking at the cliff, you go off the cliff. When you're looking at the tree, you hit the tree. When you are thinking a thought, your actions usually follow unless you become aware, wait a minute, I know which direction this is now heading, right? Before you do something, you are usually thinking something. And that's the moment that things can change. Now, concealed acts, secret things, concern Adonai, our God. Someone tell me about the high holiday season with this. Secret things, concealed things, in its darker form, right? And not in the positive way, but in its darker form. Concealed things, concern Adonai, our God. Tell me about this as it relates to the season of atonement, repentance, coming up this Monday. Someone. Who knows about them? God knows about everything that you've done, everything you didn't do, everything you should have done, right? God knows. God knows probably better than you do, right? In fact, there's a whole category of I don't know the right word, indiscretion, things that you should not have done. There's a whole category here that our rabbis talk about with this very verse. We're not going into this conversation, but things that you did that you didn't know were bad. Things you did that you didn't know would cause harm. Things that you just that you just did. That you just did without being any wiser for it, right? You don't believe that's possible. Sure. Maybe you realize after the fact. Yeah. Maybe. Come on in, please. My wife and I have a joke, which is we read a lot of parenting books. We've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I am convinced, and we read the best parenting books around, PhD after PhD after PhD, writing about how to raise these little monsters. I can promise you, everything we read now, our kids will think is outdated when they, God willing, have children of their own, right? And you read old parenting books. It's Ferber. I shouldn't criticize anyone's parenting, right? It was the top science at the time. I don't blame anybody for doing this. But most parents these days are not leaving their kids to cry through the night. Right? That in a different generation, that was considered good parenting. In this generation, it's, looked down on. And when my kids are raising their own children, they'll say, how come you didn't do this? Right? It'll go back and forth. Right? So there are things that we don't know about that we do anyway. Right? Concealed acts concern Adonai your God. And, okay. But here's where the rubber hits the road. Overt acts are for whom? Who can address the overt acts? When you become aware of someone else doing something, whose responsibility is it to fix? Yours. Unless you think this responsibility stops with you, it's for those who come after you. And for those who come after you, this is an eternal commandment. Right? Do you follow this? Let's look at this. Concealed acts concern Adonai our God, but with overt acts, whose job is it to address the overt acts, the injustices in the world that we can see? That's on you and me. When it's overt, follow the Torah. Now, when it's overt, it is your responsibility to fix. Now, you would think, who else could have jurisdiction over overt acts in this world? Not just you and me, but God. right? Here we almost have the Torah saying, and you can't make this up unless it's here, right? It's here. We're all looking at it, right? The brokenness in the world caused by you and me is yours and mine to fix. God is not going to come in with a cleaning crew, an angelic cleaning crew, and clean up the mess that you made. I wish it worked out like that. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if life had a cleanup crew? They didn't have to pay for that. You know, that would just kind of come in because you're a good person and just clean up the mess you made. But the mess that we make in this world, if it is going to be cleaned up, is going to be cleaned up by whom? By the very people who make it. And this is, are we closing out? Okay, this is such an important part of our people's Torah. You see those dots? I promise I get to those dots. Those dots are, there are a lot of different interpretations. One of them that I want to share with you, those dots are exclamation points. This only happens 10 times in the Torah. I didn't know that before I prepared today. I knew there were dots. I didn't know how many, right? 10 times in the Torah. That's it. There are 80,000 words in the Torah. That's an accurate number, just shy of 80,000 words in the Torah. Only over a sparse handful like this. 10 different times. That's it. Do we have these little dots, right? And our rabbis teach where there are dots, pay attention. Because if the world is going to be healed here, if the world is going to be healed, it's not going to be from God, right? God can be the motivation behind the healing, right? I don't want to undersell God here, right? Because where we look is where we go. And God can help shape the direction of where we look, right? Or holier thinking, perhaps. Which one? Within us. That's lanu ulvanenu, which is on ourselves and our children. Yeah, on ourselves and our children is the dots. If the world will be healed, it's from you and from me. Now, this is the last sentence I'm going to say. Then we really have to go. The high holiday season is the season. The point of the high holiday season is to take care of every single last thing that we can think of between ourselves and each other. Come Rosh Hashanah, and especially Yom Kippur, the last bit of atoning that we should do is between ourselves and God. Right? So first and primarily, this high holiday season is about being right again with each other, correcting the relationships that we have with each other and the world that we've co-created with other human beings. Fix that first. God's the thoughts, right? But we are the action. And if the world's going to be better, it's going to be because of us. That's our verse of Torah for tonight, my friends. Can we light some Shabbat candles together? Do some Kiddush together? It's right out there. So the setup's a little bit strange. We're going to go out here, we're going to light, and we're going to come back in, and we're going to pray. Please. They brought him in. Hey, okay. All right. Live stream people, hang tight for a moment. We're going to see where our bar mitzvah boy is. Not here yet. Elijah, is he here? You don't know. You just got here early. Okay. Anyway, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. We're going to start soon, just a little while, okay? Cool.
funky, and you look so good.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
My name is Aaron Miller. I'm one of the rabbis here at Washington Hebrew. We are joined in no particular order by Ami Yaris on guitar, Joey Antico on drum and percussion, Dan Brown on upright bass. This young man, Justin Callis, our wonderful student cantor, Susan Bortnick, our wonderful senior cantor, and Matvey Sigalov on violin. It is wonderful to see you all. This is about however many people you are more than I thought would be here. The weekend, not just of Labor Day, but Rosh Hashanah, I hear it's coming up. I hear it's coming up. Before we invite our Bar Mitzvah family forward to lead us in the lighting of our Shabbat candles, I want to share this. This is not about me. This is about us here at Washington Hebrew. This is a very busy time. It is a busy time. And I would encourage you, whenever you encounter somebody who's helped you get from where you are to here, temple staff, people who are making this Shabbat and the high holidays possible, if I could ask you to extend an extra measure of kindness and grace to them. Don't give them a hug because it's COVID, right? But any love that you can send their way. This has been a week. This has been a time. And it's a beautiful time, and so good to see you all. So I want to welcome all of you here. I also want to welcome Elijah, who is here to celebrate a big day starting really now, because Jewish holidays begin on the sundown. So to begin this sacred time, I'm going to invite Jennifer and James to come forward and lead us in the lighting of our Shabbat candles. That can be found on pages 3 as the opening reading, and then 2. Just page 2. So I can't do it. Not right.
Yes, absolutely. Can we have the microphone? Okay. Oh, here. No, you can light it first. Yeah, light it first. Yeah, push and then. It's there. It's on. It's on.
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chad likner shel Shabbat.
Amen. And then English.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, James. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Here's what I'd like to do. Before we continue our service, I'd like for you to turn to someone sitting next to you. Don't get too close, because, again, it's COVID. But if I could ask you to share with them, just as our way of saying Shabbat Shalom to each other, your name, where you came from to get here, and given that Rosh Hashanah is coming up, your favorite part of the high holiday season. I'll give you a minute or two. Turn to each other. Say hello. Shabbat Shalom.
Getting permits? No, right? Go us. Girls Project. I know, us too. I know, same with us. I think we're going to really start October. I know. We have to take our roof off. Yeah, can't have hurricanes. Yeah. Oh, man. I know. We'll be able to commiserate all year. All right.
I love it. We're now going to turn to our prayer of joy, Shabbat joy. Lechuna Ranana, page 12.
Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Navia, Navia, Letzur Yishenu Nekama Bala B'toda. Navia, Navia, Letzur Yishenu B'zmirot Navia Lo. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Adonai. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Adonai. Navia, Navia, Letzur Yishenu Nekama Bala B'toda. Navia, Navia, Letzur Yishenu B'zmirot Navia Lo. Last time. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Adonai. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Adonai. And we continue singing these psalms of praise as we turn to the middle of page 17. And you'll find the beginning of Romemu halfway through the second paragraph of Hebrew. Exalt Adonai our God and bow toward God's holy hill, for Adonai our God is holy. We join together in Romemu. Romemu, Romemu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu lahadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu, Romemu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu le'har kodosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, Romemu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu lahadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu, Romemu, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu le'har kodosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, ki kadosh
Boi v'shalom, enter in peace. We read in Lachadodi in verse 9, enter in peace this time of Shabbat. The week has been stressful enough, hadn't it? The week has been stressful enough. We deserve a time of peace. We deserve a day of peace. We are given this as our first sacred gift, as an act of creation, this time of rest, to put aside what was and to enter into what is this sacred and uniquely holy time for you, for me, that we create together, this moment of Shabbat. We're going to join on page 20 for verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Come verse 9. We're going to rise as a congregation. We're going to face the doors through which we entered, welcoming in that sense of peace. And whoever else comes in, someone always comes in as we stand, as we continue with Lachadodi.
Standing as we turn to our our call to worship on page 28, the Baruch Hu. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai.
We continue on page 31 as we welcome in this new day as the sun falls down, as we roll into this darkness through which holiness shines forth.
Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll
This is an hour of change.
light.
Within it we stand uncertain at the border of life. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv,
Roll into dark.
Roll into
Dark, roll into light.
Roll into
Light. Night becomes day.
Night becomes day.
And day turns to night.
Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night.
Page 34, our prayer of oneness, of coming together, Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
We continue chanting together the Haftarah on page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'leftecha b'derech uv'shofbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam leot lal yadecha והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen.
We continue on page 40 with our people's prayer of freedom, Mi Chamocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש.
Before we continue with Vashamru on page 44, with your permission, I want to tell us with Hashkivenu. I'll save the story for a moment. We're going to continue on page 42 with Hashkivenu, our prayer for divine protection as we enter into moments of darkness, as we navigate them hand in hand, shoulder next to shoulder, navigating through the wilderness, of course, together. We continue with these words.
And you can find the lyrics on the back of your service cue sheet if you grabbed one on your way in.
Spread the shelter. Spread the shelter
quick story before we turn to page 44 for Shamru. My daughter has finished her first week in kindergarten. She went to school here, a Jewish preschool. She has a Jewish family. She doesn't know her world is mostly Jewish. So she's trying to figure out at her kindergarten who's Jewish and who's not, assuming that everybody is. And her question, which I want to share with you, I thought was just so beautiful and touching for tonight. Instead of asking people what their last names were, instead of asking people what they did for Rosh Hashanah or for Yom Kippur, instead of asking people which congregation they joined, the questions that we ask maybe today, she asked, do you celebrate Shabbat? Do you celebrate Shabbat? A couple of kids do, as it turns out. And it's because Shabbat is this anchor for our people, this anchor for our lives, this grounding point of spirituality and depth that we've turned to for thousands of years. You are what you do all the time. And so while there are these one-off things that are highlights of the year coming up, especially the High Holy Days, it's Shabbat. It's always been Shabbat that brings us together and makes us the people who we are. And so we continue with our prayer of Shabbat, Bishamru, on page 44.
Nishameru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asod et HaShabbat, v'dorotam, v'dorotam, v'ridolam, nishameru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asod et HaShabbat, v'dorotam, Nishameru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asod et HaShabbat, l'dorotam v'rit olam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz, u'vayom hashvi, Shabbat, Shabbat v'yilakash, v'shameru v'nei Yisrael, et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asod et HaShabbat, l'dorotam, b'rit olam, v'shameru v'nei Yisrael, et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asod et HaShabbat, l'dorotam, b'rit olam, l'dorotam, b'rit olam. Thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering the song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day. Eternity utters a day. Ya la la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la la. ata Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu.
Page 48.
Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדרום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, למען אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We invite you to be seated, and as you are doing so, the last three prayers we sang, if you've ever wondered what the little insert that says Shabbat Shuvah means or when it's done, that's next weekend. It's the only weekend of the year we do these little inserts because it's the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And so we invite you to come back so you can sing those little inserts as a part of the three prayers we just sang.
It's extremely exciting.
It's very exciting.
It actually is. It's important. And so we are going to continue now on page 55 at the top of the page, and let's read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. May this day fulfill its promise. I love that. The promise of Shabbat is that there is joy. The promise of Shabbat is that there is gladness, even when it might be a little bit harder to find sometimes. And so I'm going to take this opportunity. If there are joys, if there are simchas, if there are things worth celebrating in your week, from last Shabbat to this one, I would love to hear them. Just raise your hand, share a simcha, share a joy on behalf of yourself or someone else. Please, yes. And I'm going to repeat for our live stream. First grandchild was born. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. And we're all here celebrating with you. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. Other joys, simchas, does not have to be as big as a first grandchild being born. Please. Oh, we have a Zaidi in the house. Any other Zaidis in the house? Any other Zaidis, Bubbies, Zaidis? You're a part of a good club here. Other joys from last week to this. Please. Great-granddaughter was born. Mazel Tov. Congratulations.
Wow,
other joys, other simchas from last week to this, please. I know a couple of you started school, please. You went to Maine. Beautiful out there, huh? Wonderful. And welcome back. Other simchas from the last week to this one, please. Oh, wonderful. Whole family is here to celebrate a bar mitzvah, and congratulations in advance. Wonderful. Isn't it good to be together?
And if
Oh,
I
we need
remember
it.
right, that bar mitzvah's birthday was just yesterday.
Oh, we had a birthday.
Which means his parents also has only teenagers,
Oh,
right? 3 teenagers.
that's a simcha.
Have fun.
Hey-o, our other joys for simchas from last week to this one. Well, wonderful. We are going to turn to our reading for simcha, for our reading of joy, which can be found on page 59. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. We turn now for our prayer of peace, knowing that the world could certainly be a more joyful place. So we turn to page 60 for Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam.
Ki atahu melech hador, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech hador, lechol hashalom.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam.
B'tov be'enecha nevarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol shah b'shlomecha.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Knowing so well that the world could use more peace and a little more joy for sure. We also think about the wholeness lacking in those who we love in our lives. And so if there is someone who you are praying for tonight, a prayer for healing, healing in its fullest sense, I invite you to share those names for whom you are praying as my eyes meet yours.
We join on page 253 in our prayer of healing, Mishaberach. Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha
Next week is Shabbat Shuvah, or Shabbat of Turning. This week is the last Shabbat before the new year begins. In the season of Teshuvah, in this month of Elul, our tradition asks, what do we have yet to do? What do we have yet to accomplish in our own lives with one another? What healing can be healed in the few days that we have left in this soon-to-be year gone past? We think now about the healing that is ahead of us that we can help bring to each other and the world as we pause for this moment of silent prayer. Well, Shabbat Shalom. I'm an extrovert by nature. I think I am at least. But I have never liked crowds. I know I'm a rabbi at a large congregation. but I always feel a little bit on edge when there's too many people. And that was before COVID. Large concerts make me a little nervous. Sporting events, not really in my element. There's something about the hustle and the bustle and the pushing and the bumping, and there is a reason why when my wife and I had the option of going to New York, Los Angeles, or Cincinnati for a rabbinical school for almost half a decade of our lives, that we enthusiastically, I think, became the first 22-year-olds in the history of 22-year-olds to choose Cincinnati instead of these other cities. We're both, I think, cut from the same cloth. There's something about the crowds. There's something about the masses of people. We just couldn't handle it. This week's Torah portion, Parashat Nitzavim, would have been our nightmare because Moses, the greatest Jew to ever walk the face of the earth, is about to die. He has 1 hour left of life, our rabbis teach. And so the entire nation of Israel, and I would have been there too, as uncomfortable as I would have been, the entire nation of Israel surrounded Moses to try to hear the last words of the greatest man to ever walk the face of the earth. And here's what Moses said to the crowd. Parshat Nitzavim, you stand here this day, all of you, before Adonai your God. Your tribal heads, your elders, and your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, even the stranger within your camp, from wood chopper to water drawer, to enter into the covenant of Adonai, your God. We have one of the most democratizing verses of our entire Torah. We have a list of people. Everybody is included in the covenant, but we have this phrase that's inserted in this list of people who is included. You stand here this day, all of you, before Adonai, your God. Now, when you can read a verse of the Bible and take out some words and it still makes sense, then you have to ask yourself, why are these words here to begin with? And this verse could reasonably read, I'm going to take out this phrase, you stand here this day, all of you, your tribal heads, your elders, your officials, all the men, women, children, you get the point. But we have this phrase that we stand here, all of us, first before Adonai, your God. Why do we interrupt in a verse that gives a list of people that enter into the covenant? Why do we interrupt this list with this insertion that we stand before Adonai, our God? Now, in normal life, we often don't get this point. In normal life, there is no standing before Adonai, our God. In fact, in normal life, we go with the rest of the verse, right? People are framed in some kind of possessive form. Now, we don't have to go into the grammar or the possessive pronoun, all of this. But in our life's story that we tell about ourselves, for most of us, most of the time, we're at the star, we're like the center, and there are people who revolve around us. And this is not an ego thing. This is how life works, right? You have your parents, right? You have your doctor. You have your lawyer. You have your accountant. You have your rabbi. You have your cantor. You have your musicians. You have your people who do something for you here at the center. For most of life, for secular life, people revolve around us, serving some function in the story that we tell about ourselves. Now, taken to its extreme, people's function that they serve in our life can lead to all kinds of horrible things. That's the reason why we have Labor Day, after all. Right? Because going back some years, the latter half of the 19th century, there were very few labor laws, right? There were few guarantees for humane working conditions. And in fact, I don't know what your story is, but most of us had ancestors that came from somewhere else, whether you were Jewish or not. If they found themselves as immigrants in larger cities, right, most of the time, you might find your ancestors in a sweatshop. Now, you and I use the word sweatshops, but I want to paint the image for a moment of a filthy, unair-conditioned place, squatting together with so many other people for a work day on a good day, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours for men, for women, for children. This is before there were child labor laws. And Labor Day honors the fact, it's Jewish in a way. It's not a Jewish holiday, although many Jews were behind its perpetuation, right? Labor Day asserts that there is more to you and me than what we produce economically, right? That you are more than what you do. That behind your financial contribution to someone else, behind the role that you play for your employer or the person who gives you, supports your livelihood, right? Behind that economic unit known as you, there is something profoundly, profoundly sacred. And that's where religion begins. Now, I'm not saying religion is perfect. I'm not saying religious people are perfect. But what I'll tell you is at the core of what it means to be a religious person is the assertion that before you are someone else's, you stand before Adonai, your God. Before you are someone else's, you stand before Adonai, your God. There is more to you than what you do. Now, as we end Shabbat, we're not ending Shabbat now, but when we wrap up Shabbat, we do so with a ritual, with a custom called Havdalah, which is another candle. It's a braided candle like this, but woven together. And when we observe this custom of Havdalah, we are meant to take the holiness of this sacred moment called Shabbat and bring it in to our week ahead. And one of the bits of wisdom that our rabbis teach is that as we light our Havdalah candle, you know what you're supposed to do? Anybody know? You're supposed to reflect the light of the Havdalah candle in your fingernails. Now, our rabbis have mitzvot and very specific ways of doing each particular thing. They teach that you're not supposed to hold your hand out to reflect the light of this Havdalah candle, the sacred light of Shabbat, but instead to curl your fingers in. And I want to tell you why. Our rabbis teach that most of the time in secular life, our world looks at us like this. Some people are higher and some are lower. Some have more, some have less. Some are blessed and privileged, and some certainly not. And this is how we measure and evaluate people in our lives, by what they give and what they serve and how much they have to offer you and me. But on Shabbat, we insist, I want everybody to do this. Bring your fingers in. Instead of like this, where everybody stands at a different level, at a different height, God sees us like this. And you'll notice your fingers are the same height. And when your fingers are like this, as we bring in this divine light, as we emanate that essence of what is holy, we stand before Adonai, our God, all as children of God, right? Each of us unique emanations of what is good and sacred in this world. And so, as we enter into this, not just the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah, before this high holiday season, but as we enter into this Labor Day Shabbat, there's more to you and me than what we give to other people. There's more to other people than what they give to you and me. Each one of us is holy, even in a crowd of thousands of people, even in a world with billions of people. Our tradition asserts more strongly than ever before that behind each face is an emanation of God, God's self. And once that becomes the core of our spiritual lives, once that becomes the essence of how you and I know each other, that's the starting point, I pray, for a world able to be redeemed. Shabbat shalom. Good job, everybody.
We rise, turning to page 282 for Aleinu. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kecho hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Page 291. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. This evening, of course, so many people come to mind in our congregation, so many sacred lights, each one of them uniquely holy. This evening we remember Robert A. Adis, Ellis L. Aronson, Esther Kramer Ostern, Joseph Barmack, Anna Baum, Seymour Bierek, Suvia Nordlinger Barend, Rose Berthoff Berzak, Jacob Braunrot, Molly Schwartz Brylowski, Eleanor Chuker, Mayor S. Cohen, Gerald Director, Joseph Dreyfus, Claire Dubinsky, Samuel Adelson, Eleanor Ehrlich, Nathan Eisenstein, Fanny L. Einstein, Eve Evans, Martin R. Fain, Meyer Fellheimer, Arnold Fine, Samuel G. Fisher, David C. Foreman, William Scott Funger, Saul Richard Gamer, Edward I. Geisinger, Harry Lewis Goldberg, Violet Goldberg, Ruth Gordon, Dora Granoff, Frida Greenstein, Joseph U. Greenstein, Sheldon I. Grossberg, Hyman Hack, Harry Hillman, Milton Horowitz, Bella Ladden Jaffe, Sally K. Fritz Jaffe, Donald Denton Janoff, Rose B. J., William Kaplan, Charles Katz, Wendy Katz, Constance Ann Conner, Milton Kronheim Sr., Richard Kronheim, Maurice H. Mazzo, Isidore Miller, Sarah Minkoff, Herman L. Nugas, Eva Ida Neviasar, Barbara S. Nordlinger, Jack Pollan, Augusta Rice, Beatrice Brownstein Ringel, Harold Buddy Robinson, Mark David Rosen, Alfred Rosenthal, Ruth Rubin, Gustav Bear Solomon, Bertie Samuel, Cecilia L. Schlossberg, Molly Schulman, Roberta Schwartz, Irving Ezra Siegel, Elliot R. Sellinger, Harry Sennett, Louis H. Shapiro, Julius Samuel Sherman, Rachel Siegel, Eva Silverman, Joseph S. J. S. Smith, David L. Stern, Bertha Strauss, Leah Strauss, Sylvia C. Winkleman, Sylvia Whitty, and Laura Schwartz. To those names we add those laid to rest in more recent days. We remember Sarah Ravik, Harold Pollan, Basil Schiff, Rabbi Richard G. Hirsch, David Carlin, and Margie Weiss. To those names, if there are names you are thinking about at this time, I invite you to elevate those names in your heart as we turn to page 294 and rise as a congregation for Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divarach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chaye echon v'yomei echon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela minkol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we together say, Amen. Amen. Please be seated. We are going to take this opportunity to call up to the front of our congregation any littles. Are we doing this?
Well, we don't have little. We have just.
We
the
have
Yiddish cup
littles,
For
but
the, we don't. We have littles, but we don't have the small glasses.
Oh, okay. So you know what? For
Maybe-
COVID's sake,
Yeah.
for COVID, normally we bring up all of our cutest congregants. You're all adorable. We bring up our cutest congregants to join us in Kiddush. Here's what we're going to do, though. We're going to do Kiddush on behalf of all of our littles and all of you.
But first, our announcements. Remember, Monday night is not just Labor Day; it's also Rosh Hashanah. So, if you don't have tickets yet, please, the link can be found, I believe, on the website. And services here will take place at 6, and services at and it's only vaccinated people here inside. And at Bindeman, it will take place at 5. And if you're at Bindeman, you will get myself and Rabbi Lustig and Rabbi Fischel and Matvey and Joey and Daniel and someone else, and then, who's not here, and then if you are here, you'll get Rabbi Miller and Rabbi Shankman and our glorious choir and organ. And then you can find all the times on the website. So please look, because they're going to be different between the two different buildings. Additionally, get your tickets for Yom Kippur while you're at it. And join us next week for Shabbat Shuvah.
Right.
And September 17th, I believe, is our next service like this at Falls Road, which will be up at Bindaman. But there also will be a service here. It's a lot of announcements because high holidays are coming, so there's lots of extra services. So please check our website for details so that you can experience high holidays, whether you're in person here, whether you're outside with us at Bindaman, or whether you're streaming. We hope you will join us. And this Shabbat, we are blessed to have Elijah Sigliano become a bar mitzvah. And so we call him forward now to receive his Cami Lauren Nathanson Kiddush Cup. Cami Lauren Nathanson was a young lady in our congregation who was very active, both here and in her secular school, but unfortunately was killed in a car accident when she was very young, well, when she was 14. And her family, in order to honor her, began a fund that gives Kiddush cups to our B'nai Mitzvah when on the eve of their bar mitzvah. This is the third Kiddush cup, I believe, to go to the Sigliano family. They are not engraved, so hopefully you all will keep track of whose is whose. So Elijah, I'm going to hand you this, and this is your Kiddush cup, and here is your part.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. And we're on page 5. Yeah.
Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the holy Shabbat our heritage as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given your holy Shabbat to us as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Amen. We're going to join together in the chanting, and then I also, I know there's family present. Mazel tov to all of you. Tomorrow you are in for a treat. And if you are available to watch the streaming tomorrow, Elijah is an amazing chanter. So if you want to hear Nitzavim, nice, clear, and beautiful, you already heard his Hebrew. It's amazing. So we join together in chanting. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher yitziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinachaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. L'chaim and mazel tov. You can take a sip once you get back to your chair. It's a little awkward. Thank you. And for our concluding song this evening, we join together in a joyous celebration of Oseh Shalom. May God bring peace upon this earth. We join together. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, Ya'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom and almost Shana Tova. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.